Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to show you how can you utilize function calling feature of Assistant API provided by OpenAI. And using this feature, we will see how can we make a call to our external API or external functions which we have defined somewhere. So if you are not sure how to get started with Assistant API, I would recommend you to watch my previous video, which is this one. And in this video, I have explained you how to grab the keys and how to create a basic retrieval system in which you can input your file and just ask the questions out of that file. So this was my first video. So let's get started with my second video in which we will see how we can make a call to external APIs. So first of all, you need to grab your OpenAI key and the organization ID, which I have already grabbed it. So I'm going to just run it, and let me also zoom the screen a bit. So here you can see that I have just created the client object using these two keys. And the next thing what we need to do is how we want to pass the data. So like I said, there are three different ways you can do it. Either you can pass in your files using the retrieval mechanism, or you can call your functions, or even you can call the code interpreter tool. So in this particular scenario or the video, we are going to take a function call. So in my case, this is the function name, and what this function does is it will take country name and the year as a parameter, and it will return you the number of homeless people in that particular country for that particular year. So this is what we are doing. So this is the defined schema. You need to follow this one in order to get the proper response. So you need to define the name. So in my case, it is get homeless count. Then I'm saying the description. Description could be anything, one liner or few lines, which can explain the purpose of your function. So I'm saying function takes in country name, year, and returns count of homeless people. Then you need to define the parameters for your function. So in my case, I'm taking year and the country, and each of these should have the respective type and the description. So once these are defined, you are good to go with your function definition. And another important attribute it has is required. So it is up to you how many attributes or the parameters you want to make it as optional, or how many of those could be mandatory. So in my case, I want both year and country should be present in order to get the response. So once this function is created, you can go ahead and create your assistant. So what assistant will do is it will take instructions like what is the purpose of this bot or assistant. Then you need to define the model, and then comes the tool. So here you need to make sure that you are giving proper syntax with a type and correct function name. So this is an example wherein I'm taking this single function, but if you are having multiple, then feel free to define those ones as well using comma separated, because tools is a list which can take more than one values. So once this is done, I'm going to run this cell as well. Then we need a thread, because this is the primary thing which is going to handle our conversations between the user and the bot. So thread can be created by using the create function of the threads. So let's go. I'm not going to dig more into this because we have already covered these basic things in my previous video. Then we need to define the user message. So user message will take thread ID. So make sure that you are creating a thread before creating a message. Then you need to define a role. So here it is user role, because the question is being thrown by the user. So this is a sample question which I'm saying that user will be asking. And what I'm saying is how many people were homeless in ABC in 2022, wherein ABC is my country name. Let's run this so we can have a unique message ID generated for us. So now we have thread ID, we have assistant ID, we can create our run using the create function of runs. Okay. Next thing is we need to associate thread ID and the run ID so that information can be retrieved. So these are the basic flow which we have already covered. And once we are till here, we need to make sure that we have the proper run status. So here it could be completed, failed, or requires action. So if you are not expecting anything from the external side or any other function calling, then definitely it will not give you this requires action. And in our case, it is giving requires actions because we have plugged in tools over here. So definitely somebody has to invoke it. And whenever we want somebody to invoke the external thing, then we need agents, and that's where we have agents in place. And for that thing we are doing, we are just saying for required action submit all the tool calls. So we have only one tool, which is our one function. So in our case it will just take in one and define I mean print all the tool calls. So here you can just quickly verify it. So this is the function name, and see how nicely it has extracted the year and the country along with the function name, and the type is function. So make sure that you validate it first and then proceed further. So let me go ahead and check. Now we have the function calling associated. Next thing is we need to see which function to make a call. So there may be the case that you have 7 to 10 functions or 5 functions, but you just want to invoke one. Now which one to invoke, that you have to figure it out using the function name. So in my case I'm having only one, so I'm just putting 0, but assuming that you may be having more, so in that case you need to run these two lines inside some iterator or the for loop. So what I'm doing here is I'm just checking, okay, the function is this, then it means that I need to call the respective API. So this is the place where you can call your external function with whatever means you have, whether it is your some SDK or whether it is your private function defined somewhere in this repo or wherever it is. So once that is done, you will get the some response. So in my case, I'm assuming that my function call, the API call is returning 123. So I will take this response and again construct the output list. So this output list will contain the output from all the functions which were being called. So make sure that you are associating tool ID and the response correctly. If this is mismatched, then you may get incorrect responses at the user's end. So this is the most critical part where I would say you need to put proper iterator and then bind it accordingly using the iterator variable. So in that case, you need not to worry much about it, because let's say if you're using for loop and your iterator is I, then you can just say I instead of zeros. So once this is done, let me quickly run this. And now we have to associate this output result to the run. So what we are doing here is we are reading all this, we are calling all the submit tools output, wherein it will take thread, run ID, and the output which was generated in above step. So we need to prepare this run once again, and then we need to see whether the run was successful, failed, or requires action. So this time I'm putting into the in a while loop, but if you will see my previous video, there I just checked it multiple times. So this is the best practice. This is how you should do it, because we don't want to keep pressing the button to check what is the status. So now once the status is done, you can even check it here that what is the run status, but in my case I'm sure it is completed. So it will come out, and here we can just print the message over here. So what we are doing here is we have the list of messages, and based on the thread id is nothing but the last interaction which was taken which took place with the user. So it's the same thread id, and then we are going ahead and printing this message. So here you can see that the estimated count of homeless people in ABC for year 2022 is 123. And this is how nicely it is constructed, although we didn't provide any information like how to construct this sentence or how to summarize the values, but still it did it. So the magic of function calling is we can call any function outside this regular flow. And that's all this video is all about. So I hope you got an idea how you can make an API call to extract the information outside this current OpenAI API flow. So, yeah, do let me know in comments what are your use cases, and we'll see if I can make similar videos on your use cases as well. So, till then, stay tuned and do let me know what are your next topics you want to hear from me, and I will try to make some on those. Thanks for watching.